whole adventure of this particular ranch that we purchased started back when I was a little kid and would ride the railroad track that borders the ranch and look at this place and just see all of the diversity, the grasses, the animals that were inhabiting this place. It is a place of adventure. It's kind of rare to find, somebody my age that's stepping in to operate a farm that's not a family farm. And, I know what it's like. Your father, your grandpa still makes the decisions on the ranch, but you're seeing all this new technology and you're seeing all these things available to do it better. And you can't because your kind of hands are tied by the family ranch. And we got lucky. I don't have that. So if I find something that's cool, we're going to go explore it. Before farming, I was in mold remediation, the business of killing fungi. But I was curious to understand what these fungi were actually doing. And it led me to discover that fungi are vital to soil regeneration. The key to a healthy soil is you need fungi, you need active fungi growing, and you need it to be equal to your bacteria. And when I found that, I said there's all kinds of opportunities to take this knowledge that I've already got and apply it to a totally different concept. And really got focused on the compost and really got focused on making a biologically diverse, fungal-dominated compost, because that's what the soil needs. Yep, so what we're doing is we're making a Johnson-Su bioreactor. The recipe that we use is a 60% woody material, and that includes branches, twigs, sawdust, shavings. We want to keep kind of bigger particles, so 1 inch by 2 inch, because airflow is the most important for us. So you can see, we got a fairly large stick in here, chunky wood, and then of course small pieces of wood. And the reason for that is just the more diversity you have, the more pockets you have for air to get into. To make a good compost, you have to have lots of oxygen. Oxygen has to flow freely and continue to feed these microorganisms. If they don't have oxygen, they go anaerobic, or your compost goes anaerobic. And now you're fighting anaerobic biology, which is not beneficial to your soil. So our focus, at least in why we did this, is to get maximum amount of airflow. The materials that go in, being our wood, is what gives us that spacing. The second thing we use is about 30% alfalfa hay, and that's hay that we produce on the ranch. And then we use roughly a 10% high nitrogen source. Couple of different options. One, we use spent grains. We have a lot of breweries here in town. We use some spent grains off of that, and then we use horse manure. That horse manure comes from our horses that we feed our hay. And the reason we do that is we want to maximize the biology of the existing crops that we're growing. So we want to be putting the mycorrhizal down, or producing the mycorrhizal that goes back onto our fields and re-inoculates the alfalfa that we have growing. Once you get this process going and you have food sources for everybody, it snowballs, right? This continues, bacteria breed every 20 minutes. So if you have 10,000, now by the end of the hour, that 10,000, has made to 20,000, to 100,000, to 1,000,000. Very quickly they can rise, but if you have the predators there, right, the protozoas, the nematodes, they hop on that population right away, and all of a sudden they have a food source. And they're keeping those guys at a manageable level. And you'll see just ebbs and flows of higher bacteria, higher fungal, lower fungal, and higher protozoa, lower protozoa. It happens. You just have to monitor that in your field and keep those levels at a manageable number. We took over the ranch a little over a year ago, so in spring of 2021. And when we got there, there was really no diversity in the soil. It had been turned, not every year, but frequently. We immediately planted cover crops. And we're seeing it now. I mean, the rest of the ranch, the regenerative process has begun, and it's coming fast. Last year we did a test we planted in the fall, and it was right when we were getting into the compost extract, and you know, was it going to be a benefit? So we did a test where we planted a strip with our compost extract in furrow of cereal rye. And the original thought was that it probably wasn't going to do much. And now we're seeing the results of that. So we planted an entire 40 acres without it and just did one pass with our ash no-till drill, putting compost extract in furrow. And this year the results are remarkable. You know, we have a plant, you know, that's 8 inches was planted the exact same day, exact same time in soil right next to plants that we planted with compost extract. And we've got 4.5, 5 foot of growth on our extract plants, and we've got, you know, 8 to 10 inches of growth on our non-extract plants. To me, that was kind of the game changer. It's saying you don't put a seed in the ground unless you've got biology with it, because that biology helps that seed get established, and when that seed's established, you know, and you got biology down there converting nutrients, that plant's gonna grow, you know, to its maximum potential.
This is the unit that Corey bought to get more or less on a commercial or an industrial scale extraction process. Fully, this is totally transportable. We can make up to 1,200 gallons. A 5-pound bucket, courtesy of Home Depot, holds approximately 25 pounds of compost. This big tank that's on our left, we call it the kettle. And that's what we primarily put the fresh, clean water. We go ahead and put the compost in there. And then we put in a little bit of, a little scoop of pure carbon, which is kind of candy for the bugs. So they grow extremely well and are quite productive. The kettle itself has got an internal unit that has got all this mesh on it that allows the bugs, if you will, that's a misnomer, but bacteria, protozoas, things along those lines, allows them to pass into the water that is then extracted into this tank. And then all of the wood chips and the larger material, when you clean this thing out, you'll find sand, rocks, lots of wood chips, things along those lines. Get it out, put it in the bucket of our skid steer, and then we just go and put it on our pile and recycle it. So it's going from, you know, one compost starting off as compost and ending up as compost. So it's a nice circular sort of program.
So once we kind of came to the conclusion that this, you know, biocomplete compost extract was the route that we were going to take, we had to start developing some equipment, at least on a larger scale, that we could get this put across our land quickly. And of course, the first answer was, you know, we have 5 pivots on our property. Being able to inject this through our pivots was key because it took 0 labor. You know, it's a process all of about 10 minutes to take the trailer out there after we've filled it with extract, connect it to the pivot, turn it on, program the pump to operate at the speed the pivot's going, and put that extract down. We've seen significant results with that method. We have a lot of hand line irrigation and a lot of wheel line irrigation. And it was, how do we get this down on our soils with this? And we found a water truck. And we basically just took an older, you know, not totally at the end of its life, but near its end of its life water truck that's totally fine to cruise around the ranch and bounce around the field spreading our extract. Put a little Honda pump on the back of it and a 65-foot boomless sprayer. And we're able to get the extract, you know, with minimal passes across our field And, you know, we can cover as much as 150 acres per application or as little as necessary. We're trying to only run half full just so we're not putting the weight on our fields. But became a very effective tool in getting this extract out on the field. Another really interesting piece of equipment that we discovered along the way was an aerator, and being able to use that aerator to apply compost extract. And what we do is we take our aerator over the soil and pokes about an 8-inch hole, an inch wide, 4 inches long, into our soil. And right behind it, or on top of it, we've got some tanks. Those tanks are just gravity feeding down to a spreader bar. And we're dropping that extract right in those holes while we're aerating. So it gets, you know, it basically takes 2 passes through our field and makes it down to 1 that are both super beneficial for fighting compaction, getting that biology close to the root as we can. Very effective. And the last piece of equipment that we use is our Esch no-till drill. We like it because it's, you know, 12 foot wide in the field, but we can rotate it and only be less than 9 foot wide for transport. We have a lot of places we got to go and we're driving on roads, so it's a lot safer. We can get through just about any gate on our ranch as well as other people's when they need help. But we bought a system from Schaffer Manufacturing that allows us to meter the compost extract that we're making and run it through a tubing system down in furrow so that we're dripping liquid directly on our seed in the ground. System is very, very effective. What we've seen, we've taken test samples on multiple fields, and even on our cereal rye that we planted, that's how it was applied. And we found significant coverage and significant biology in furrow right on the root while that seed's developing. And we're seeing just plant compared to the plant next to it that doesn't have it, significant differences in the virality, the growing of what those plants are doing. Extremely healthy. When you start getting excited about a project and you start to see success, you want to tell everybody about it. We're able to offer this to other people in the community. And one of those people are Malayan Meadowlark Flower Farm. The gal, Jennifer, that runs that, told her, you know, she was discussing with me what she's doing, and I said, you got to try this. I mean, we're seeing some amazing results. And so early this spring, she came out and got some extract. You know, we filled up a couple of buckets. She took it over, put it on her plants. And, you know, it takes time for it to develop, but as we go around there now, she's telling us these are the healthiest that her plants have ever been. Another thing that we found, and I don't know if this is happenstance or just that what we're doing is actually working, but we haven't had a vet call this year for our cattle herd. You know, typically we're running into issues where we got a pink eye, we're having pregnancy issues or fertility issues, or, you know, something's always going on with animals on the farm, and you always got to maintain their health and be checking their health daily. And, you know, we're doing all of that, but it's, you know, and this is kind of just something that's been in the back of my head, that we're putting this biology down, we're making a more nutrient-dense feed for our livestock. And I'm assuming, right, and I've read this and I've studied this, that the health of our herd is going to improve. You know, if the nutrition that they're getting is better, if the plants that they're eating have a higher nutritional value or a healthier plant, then the assumption is that that cow is going to be a healthier animal. You know, and we're seeing that, you know, and it's telling us that maybe this method is cheaper than we thought because we're not having vet costs anymore. So one of the technologies that we're using on the ranch is the Vents virtual fencing system. And, you know, as everybody knows, it takes a lot of labor to move cattle frequently, but we really need cattle to be a big part of our regenerative process. And this allows us to do that particular part of our chores remotely. This is a Vents collar, basically controlled by radio communication from a tower that we have on the ranch.
which then communicates to through software, through a computer, or through a phone, where we can identify the perimeter of a virtual fence. That communicates to the tower communicates back to this essentially necklace that the cattle are wearing. And all the electronics, of course, are packed in here. Battery, we have two chains, okay, one is a positive, one is a negative. And then in between we mount this plastic collar. So as we go on, we separate the chains on each side, and then as you can see, we mount them with the plastic, of course, on the top of the neck. The reason for this is that past technologies, or at least in the development of this process, they'd have had issues with, if it was like a dog collar had a nodule, those nodules would flip as the cows would rub on each other on a fence or itch on a tree. And so this allows there to always be a skin contact to deliver stimulation if it was necessary. The benefit of these collars, it allows us to move our cattle as frequently as necessary to avoid overgrazing whatever pasture they're in. We can increase density, we can keep them small area, we can open up larger area. Really effective on some of the lease ground that we have that we're using other people's land for, but we can get in and manage that and effectively do it on our computer without having to spend a ton of money building fences. So really it gives us a bunch of flexibility in managing our cow herd. This method of getting compost extract onto the fields is not expensive. You know, we build our Johnson Seuss for less than $50. We have the materials on the ranch to do it. It just takes a little time. Getting that liquid produced is invaluable. You know, you can't put a price on it because it does so much for your soil. And when you start developing that and you start seeing the results, the success that you're gonna have on your farm is significant. And we're seeing that. And we've done it in 1 year.